Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. After Britain and France declared war on Germany, the period known as the Phony War, or Drôle de Guerre, began. Although there were very few ground clashes, the air war quickly intensified, with pilots on both sides frequently seeing action. The most numerous French fighter, and the only domestically produced modern fighter available to the French Air Force at the time, was the Morane-Saulnier MS-406. Its first combat against the Luftwaffe occurred on September 21, 1939, where it encountered the German Bf-109E. The German fighter demonstrated its superiority, shooting down one of the Moranes. 3 days later, the French MS-406 performed better when it faced the older Bf-109D variant. These early encounters have already been covered in detail in a previous video. If you missed it, simply click on the suggestion link in the top right corner. However, the basic issue with the MS-406 persisted. It was distinctly inferior to the Bf-109E in nearly all aspects, except for horizontal maneuverability. As a result, the French Air Force typically deployed Morane units to less active sectors along France's 800-kilometer border with Germany. The American-built H-75 Hawk, by contrast, was tasked with defending more threatened areas, so units flying Moranes often saw less action than those equipped with the Curtiss Hawk. Nevertheless, an opportunity for aerial successes arose on September 30, 1939. That day, 7 Moranes from Groupe de Chasse fighter groups 1-3 and 3-3 escorted a Potez 637 reconnaissance plane on a mission to Wissembourg. At this stage of the conflict, both sides relied heavily on reconnaissance flights to gather intelligence, making such missions frequent triggers for air combat. 4 Bf-109s from 3rd Staffel Jagdgeschwader 53 attacked the French recon aircraft. In the battle, Sergeant Marcel Soulage managed to damage one of the attackers, and the German fighter was subsequently finished off by Adjutant Michel Marias. However, Marias' own aircraft then came under fire from another Messerschmitt and sustained damage. Marias later described landing his bullet-riddled plane at Tourvelaine. Bullets had even passed through his parachute, and one projectile was found lodged between his flight suit and his belt. Lieutenant Pierre Patru was wounded in the arm and forced to make an emergency landing in a field. It appears that the 4 Moranes from GC-13 did not participate in the combat, leaving only 3 French fighters to face 4 German opponents. Besides damaging 2 French planes, the Messerschmitt pilots also succeeded in shooting up the Potez reconnaissance aircraft. October and November remained relatively quiet, with poor weather limiting aerial operations and confirming that Germany would not launch any invasions until spring. During October, Morane units claimed only 2 Henschel 126 reconnaissance aircraft. November 9 marked the first combat for Groupe de Chasse 27 when Moranes intercepted a Dornier Do-17. Sergeant Pierre Boileau fired at the enemy bomber but missed. It's worth noting that Boileau had never fired his guns before. During training, his commanding officer considered him insufficiently prepared and left him out of the live-fire exercises. Boileau's gunnery skills improved later. He went on to achieve 9 aerial victories, and after the war, He was ironically appointed as an instructor at the gunnery school. The Germans returned fire, hitting his Morane twice but causing only minor damage. Groupe de Chasse 27 had another engagement with German Dornier bombers on November 22nd. 4 Moranes caught a lone Do-17P and damaged it, forcing the German pilot to crash land behind German lines at Sulzburg. The victory was shared by 4 French pilots, including Georges Valentin and Gabriel Gauthier, both of whom would become 10 victory aces. Later that day, around 11:15, a large French formation filled the skies over Saarbrücken. 6 Moranes from GC-13 accompanied a single Potez 6311, while 15 others covered Moreau parasol observation planes. At 11:40, 6 Bf-109Es from Jagdgeschwader 76 dove on the 6 Moranes of GC-13. A dogfight ensued, soon joined by 6 more Moranes from GC-26. The Germans inflicted heavy damage on 1 Morane, but the numerically superior French prevailed. The Germans were forced to land 2 fighters on French territory, and their pilots were captured. One of them, Feldwebel Karl Heer, would later become an ace with 14 victories, 13 of them against RAF Spitfires and Hurricanes. Remarkably, both downed Messerschmitts were captured in good condition. One was displayed on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, while the other was extensively test-flown, first by the French, then by the RAF, providing invaluable insights into the German fighter's strengths and weaknesses. The plane was eventually transferred to the Americans, who unfortunately crashed it beyond repair. Which French pilots received credit for shooting down the 2 Bf-109s? Incredibly, no fewer than 8 pilots were credited for one of the victories. How 8 pilots could all hit the same fighter, which ultimately landed nearly intact, remains a mystery. The other airplane was more plausibly credited to 2 pilots, including Léon Couffon, who would later become a 13th victory ace, flying with both the famous Normandy Niemen unit in the USSR and in French Indochina after the war. The air battles of November 22, 1939 were not yet over. Morane-Saulnier MS-406 from Groupe de Chasse 37 subsequently encountered Messerschmitts from Jagdgeschwader 51. Oberleutnant Hermann Friedrich Jopin shot down one of the Moranes, but his own aircraft was damaged and he crash-landed. Jopin ultimately tallied 70 aerial victories, including 23 Spitfires. On November 23rd, 2 Moranes from GC-36 on patrol spotted and shot down a lone Dornier Do-17P at Bras-sur-Meuse. Both pilots shared the kill, future 18th victory ace Sergeant-Chef Pierre Legloin and Sous-Lieutenant Robert Martin. After this, the Morane-Saulnier fighter saw almost a month without combat. Up to this point, it had still managed to hold its own reasonably well against the Bf-109, but this balance would soon shift. especially with the onset of the German invasion. There was, however, still more fighting to come. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to hear about those battles, and as always, keep watching Showtime 112.